HD SLR Shooters special coverage of NAB 2017. Sponsored by Akidio, Aperture, Adamus, Band Pro, Blackmagic Design, Carl Zeiss, Light in Motion, Manios Digital and Film, Shape, Schneider, Sakonic, and Xylite.
Hi, Clint with HD SLR Shooter, continuing our coverage of NAB 2017 at the Sony booth with Amy.
Yes.
And Amy, you have the Sony A9.
Yes.
A lot of excitement around this product. Talk a little bit about it.
Oh my gosh, we have been drooling over this camera ourselves since we introduced it last week. This is the world's first full frame camera with a stacked sensor in full frame. And what that basically means is not only is it a back illuminated sensor, which gives it twice the low light capability, but this camera has two brains in it, if you will. There's a processor for the camera and then a processor on the sensor itself. So that gives us the ability to do some pretty impressive things, like capture 20 frames per second totally silent. Because actually right now you can't hear a thing, but you can see that little blinking indicator on the screen there.
Wow.
Tells me I am shooting 20 frames per second.
Not a bit of noise.
Exactly, totally silent. It also has 693 autofocus points that cover 93% of the frame, and it's sampling those 60 times a second.
How is it keying to focus then?
Well, this camera does feature touchscreen for focus. It also has face detection for focus, but the camera, like I said, is sampling those focus points 60 times a second.
Stacked sensor. Talk a bit about what that actually means.
The simplest way to describe it is in most sensors you have wiring and circuitry on top of the pixels. With the reverse or stacked CMOS, we've not only moved that circuitry to the back, which opens up the pixels to gather more light, but we've also added that second processor, or that second brain back there, to give the camera faster data readout, more efficient data readout than you get with a traditional sensor.
And you mentioned backlit. How does that work? Was it like pushing photons into the sensor?
No, it's just by moving that circuitry and that electronics from the front of the sensor to the back. The back refers to the circuitry being on the back of the sensor. So that just opens up the pixels to gather more light from the sources that are available.
So what are you guys calling the native ISO then?
Native ISO on this particular camera is ISO 100. So it's very clean, it's very fast, it's very bright. There's currently only two full frame cameras in the world that feature a back illuminated sensor. One of them is our A7R Mark II, which we introduced about 2 years ago now. And now this one is not only back illuminated, but also has that stacked sensor.
So is this crazy like the A7 that can see in the dark essentially?
Not quite, because that camera, that A7S Mark II, the one that can essentially see in the dark, that's a 12 megapixel, so it has huge, huge pixels, but that is a traditional CMOS, so the circuitry is on top of the sensor. This is 24 megapixel, and that reverse illuminated, so it gathers significantly more light, but it doesn't have the sensitivity range. The A7S Mark II that you were referring to has an available ISO of 409,600. This is 51,200.
Let's talk about video applications for this. What are the outputs?
It's full 4K like many of the products in our lineup. We'll do 4K at 30p or 24p. It does high definition at 60p, 30p, 24p. Also does standard def if you want that as well. It does offer clean, uncompressed output via the HDMI, so you can go to an external recorder if you want. So basically, it's not a limitation of the camera not being able to do 4K at 60p. It's the SD cards. They just don't offer a fast enough transfer rate for us to do that.
Right, so that was my next question. The media is going to be SD?
Yes, it is SD. This is our first E-mount camera that does have dual card slots on it. The first card slot number 1, also supports UHS-2 media, so that faster transfer rate to help you clean your buffer as you're shooting at 20 frames per second.
In regards to HDMI signal, is it clean going out for like an Adamus recorder or something like that?
Completely clean, so there's no issues whatsoever there.
And what are the frame rates that are available
for 4K, it's 30p and 24p in NTSC format. In high definition, it's 60p, 30p, and 24p. You can also do high definition 120 frames per second, so high speed at full high definition, or you can do 240 frames per second at 720p. And you also have standard definition at 60, 30, and 24p.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Is this shipping now? Or?
No, pretty close. We just announced it last Wednesday, so it's not only a week old right now, but it will be shipping in the U.S. for about $4,500 in the end of May. So May 25th.
Now, I noticed in the press release material they were talking about it for sports, right?
Correct. This camera is specifically designed for applications where you either need to be completely silent or completely silent and capture a lot of images at high quality. So for golf, for tennis, somewhere where traditional cameras that click are limited as to where you can shoot. Even press conferences, things like that, where you don't want to make any noise at all. Plus the 20 frames per second at full resolution with that insane autofocus obviously gives you a lot of opportunities for sports as well. And we also, when we announced this camera last week, we did announce a new 100 to 400 telephoto lens to go along with it in our G Master series. So you've got the perfect lens, you've got the perfect camera. You just have to wait about a month for the camera to show up on shelves.
About a month, and at the price point?
$4,500 US, $6,000 Canadian.
Excellent. People want to find out more. There is a great website, right?
Yes, you can go to Sony.net or you can go to Alpha Universe, where you can learn more about any of the cameras in our lineup, any of the lenses, the photographers who use them, the latest and greatest, and even events that are coming to your town.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. Have a great show.
HD SLR Shooters special coverage of NAB 2017. Sponsored by Akidio, Aperture, Adamus, Band Pro, Blackmagic Design, Carl Zeiss, Light and Motion, Manios Digital and Film, Shape, Schneider, Sakonic, and Xylite.